Glad to have you back. Today is yet another day of commemorating the strength, courage and perseverance of millions of people forced to live in the margins of refugees. But this year, World Refugee Day is marking a key moment for the public to show support for families who have been forced to flee. To do this, the UN Refugee Agency launched the #WithRefugees petition last June to send a message to governments that they must work together and do their fair share for refugees. Deputy Program Coordinator Northeast Oxfam Gabriella Meillet joins me via Skype now from Nigeria, Maiduguri, northeast of the country, to talk more on this commemoration of Refugee Day. Thank you for your time on TVC News. Now, can the world do enough to take care of refugees that are increasing by the day?
Hi. I think that there's a lot more that can be done and should be done. We're seeing that there are record numbers of refugees all over the world. So this is something that I totally agree with the messaging that we all need to kind of contribute and support in different ways.
But it seems that many are quick to forget that refugees are humans too, and somehow they do not understand what these people are going through. So how best do you think governments and NGOs should go about letting people see that refugees are human beings and they deserve decent lives?
So I think one key way to actually make sure that people don't forget that we're all humans is that more information needs to be raised about these types of crises. So for Nigeria, for example, it's really key to really paint an accurate picture of what's happening with all these people affected by the crisis. Today is World Refugee Day. There's a little bit of a distinction between IDPs and refugees, in that refugees are people who are driven away from their countries because of a very well-placed fear or a very real fear, and IDPs are those in their borders. And right now, just to illustrate what's happening in Nigeria, finding that many Nigerians who have fled to neighboring countries are coming back because they wish to return home. And it's a very realistic picture of what's happening now, is that they come home in hopes of being in their places of origin, hoping for better access to food, water, sanitation, livelihoods, and they're finding that their places have been either completely destroyed or that infrastructure is damaged. So for our part, we need to make sure that this is really clearly depicted and that we're actually making sure that at the back end, when they return home, we are doing the best that we can to provide all those services.
Yes, but what should other NGOs do, and of course governments across the world, especially the United Nations, knowing that right now refugees do not even get enough funds to be fed well? There is the problem of food rationing now, malnutrition of refugee children, poor hygiene, like you earlier mentioned. So how is it that more funds can be got from across the world for refugees to be able to live decently in the refugee camps that are spread across the world?
So to raise funding, again, like it goes back to what sort of information are we presenting to the world? Because from my experience in humanitarian work, people, when they see what's really happening, they're moved to help. I think people really are interested in providing as much as they can. But in many cases, it could be a forgotten crisis. And there are so many situations happening around the world. But what really needs to come out now is a very strong coordination and collaboration among the humanitarian community, because it's a rare occasion that you can get like a completely funded humanitarian response across all sectors. So when that happens, you need to work together with the humanitarian community and the governments to see what your value added is, so that in some places where you have a gap, you can pull in others that can. In addition, I think the strongest type of information sharing and advocacy that we could bring about for the plight of refugees is that you need to present like really accurate on the ground case studies or information about people that we're serving. So often in many cases, we're finding that the assistance that you provide, small as you think it may be, is life-saving and life-changing. So this needs to come out as clearly as we can.
So in what specific ways now is your own group helping refugees in the northeastern part of Nigeria live well and be able to move on?
Okay. So Oxfam has been working in this crisis since 2014, but given the gravity of the situation, we've scaled up our humanitarian response in the last year, and we basically have set up 5 field bases that have been responding to around 350,000 people in Borno and northern Adamawa. So what we do is, and what I think our strengths are as Oxfam, is that we work with internally displaced camps. We work in host communities, in places that are just recently accessible or have been accessible in the last few months. And we do things like repairing and constructing water sources, providing sanitation. We try to provide for food security. We try to provide for livelihoods, and all anchored under the hope that we're also building up protection structures to support people in having a very safe and dignified life wherever they may be. So where there is still difficulty getting those set up, we're trying to build local communities to be able to know their rights and respond on their own as well.
Gabriella Meillet, Deputy Program Coordinator, Northeast Nigeria of Oxfam, thank you for your analysis as the world celebrates Refugee Day.
Thank you very much for having Oxfam.